my name is Hallie and welcome to the Royalty. We're back and we're going to be reacting to The Emperor of Man by Luetin. Today is a very special stream. It is the start of the 1 week daily uploads, all lives, to thank you all for 4K watch time. I have just finished work, so grab a blanket, get tucked in, come sit on the couch, and let's get into this. We're ready! I've been asked to watch this before I watch The Emperor does text-to-speech. Part 1 is today, part 2 is tomorrow. So be prepared for that. Hey Beta Thought Experiment, welcome in! We're just starting, don't worry. You haven't missed anything. Have you got your blanket? Are you tucked in? We're all just getting together on the couch and we're gonna watch this, okay? Right. I'm so ready to say kill the Emperor with more further. Bye music. In the grim darkness of the far future, black screens are very interesting. Can you not see me? There is only war. I hope you can see this.
There once was a man born in a forgotten time. Created by a force of unknown origin. He would cross the ages knowing his one purpose: to lead humanity as the greatest empire in the galaxy.
Good.
The Imperium of Man. In this time, he would be known by only one name: the Emperor of Mankind.
Alright. See where we're going with this. Mr. Goldflex. Greetings, heretic!
This is Luetin. I must first apologise for the length of time since the last project. The simplest explanation is it took me a long time to compile amid many other things going on for me. So we now move on from the Eldar history and wade into one of the most important and complicated narratives in the universe of the 41st millennium. It is, of course, the rise of humanity and the Imperium. In the dark, never-ceasing war that is the future, humans have risen to control and maintain a galaxy-spanning empire whose official title is the Imperium of Mankind.
I'm glad you think so, and I'm hoping that I'll agree with you. I've had this there's literally 5 people named in the description of this video because so many of you recommended it.
The Imperium is the largest and most powerful political entity in the galaxy. It has been established for a period of some 10,000 years up to its present date in the age of Warhammer 40k. The lore and scripture around this period is massive. Despite this daunting task though, I've decided to interpret it in one piece chronologically, splitting it into chapters so as to best enable you guys to get an understanding and a grasp of what it is all about. This is the 3rd video in my Warhammer 40,000 lore series, and it seeks to create a foundation for all of the further videos which talk about the Imperium of Man.
A nice overview. I like this. I like this. You know what? He's got chapters. He's got a soothing voice. I'm down with him. Go on.
The Imperium of Man consists of the planets, systems and forces throughout the galaxy which contain Imperial citizens and their derivatives. Not all humans are universally members of the Imperium though, and as you would expect, there are rogue traders and those who choose to live on the legal fringes of society. The single most important figure within the Imperium is the aforementioned founder, saviour and ruler of this empire, known as the Emperor of Mankind.
Savior.
He formed the Imperium some 10,000 years previous to the current established date in the universe of Warhammer 40,000 at the end of the 30th millennium. This occurred following an especially brutal period of societal disintegration during the last days of the Age of Strife. In this video, I'll outline the political state that is the Imperium, as well as the history behind how humanity reached this point in the far future. As with anything though, the complexity and depth of the lore means I can't cover it in its fleshed entirety, so some tangents are going to have to remain for future videos, but I do my best to cover as much as possible which is relevant.
If he does miss anything, do feel free to leave a comment at any point. I do read all the comments. Let me know anything that's missed or something you think that's important that's briefly mentioned.
The Emperor of Man sits as an extremely powerful figure within the Imperium. Make no mistake, he is the centre of humanity in the 41st millennium. So powerful a humanoid, he was arguably barely human to begin with, and he continues to protect mankind after his mortal wounding during the final battles of a period known as the Horus Heresy.
Everyone talks about him like a hero, not down with it, but
Not
okay.
for his ever-present psychic voice reaching out, searching, protecting and planning, then the Imperium of Man would undoubtedly fall back into dark oblivion, and perhaps the light would be extinguished permanently. The Emperor was injured so badly after the heresy that he now exists only as a husk of a man within a stasis chamber called the Golden Throne. This allows him to live on eternally as he has done for some past 10,000 years, whilst continually guiding mankind through psychic whispers. The only catch with this is thousands of psykers are sacrificed every day using their essence and psychic power to keep him alive, as he is heavily protected and attended to back on the ancient homeworld of legend, Terra, or Old Earth.
Honestly, you best just put him out as misery. We can just get rid of him, right?
The Imperium of Man in the wider galaxy now consists of many systems, planets, and trillions of citizens. All the while, the Imperial military and the many administrators of mankind, all of whom swear allegiance to the Emperor, all stand together against the nightmares of the galaxy to form what is humanity in the darkest of futures.
Can anyone ever truly be human in this world? I feel like there's too much going on for us to really be.
Now we know that in this future we have access to highly advanced technology and face many voracious enemies wielding our own forces to then counter them. The important question in understanding the Imperium is, how did we get to this time? And to understand this, we need to look back at the extensive and dark history of humanity. There is a small clue as to the way in which the people that constitute humanity in the 41st millennium view their past. That is, the Imperial two-headed eagle, the crest of the Imperium. It stands with its two heads, but with one eye closed. Blind, or perhaps refusing to see the past. The other eye is open, looking to the future. The logic being that the past of humanity is too painful or dangerous to look back on, so we look forward, striving to be stronger and more powerful, as we have done for thousands of years.
We have the drive, we have the power.
There are distinct ages of humanity's history, and these tell the story of how we reached the time of the Imperium. 1 millennium equals 1,000 years. The Imperium has now been established for 10 millennia or 10,000 years. Humanity has existed for roughly 41,000 years. This timeline demonstrates the ages of man through this period, from our ancient history through to the age of the Imperium.
You can kill him, but since he's perpetual, you wouldn't get rid of him. Also, with 10,000 years of constant worship, he'd likely attain godhood, despite wanting to denounce religion in its entirety. I think I could pull some strings. Get rid of that godhood, you know?
We have the ancient history, the Age of Terror, the Golden Age of Technology or the Dark Age of Technology, the Age of Strife, the Unification Wars, the Great Crusade and the Fall of the Eldar, the Horus Heresy and the Great Scouring, followed by the final Age of Imperium of Man.
Hi Gigash, welcome in. Welcome back. I said I'd watch it.
The ancient history tells of the dawn of mankind, but this period is largely one of animalistic evolution. The most significant event occurs around 7000 BC. This event marks the birth of the humanoid, who would become the Emperor of Mankind. His origins are something of a heated debate among the 40k community. There are several theories around this, and it's important to note that something I rarely see stated on forums or discussions around the origins of the Emperor is that quite simply no one knows the origins of the Emperor. It's all just speculation. speculation. Simply because one theory has had a vague reference at one time or another does not make it gospel. In fact, as I've repeated before, the crux of the matter with Imperial history and lore in general is that very little should ever be considered official or canon. Such is the state of the loss of history, misinformation, and suppression of facts within the 40k universe.
There are only human perpetuals for some reason. That is funny, actually. I wonder why. But also, I think it's sus that we don't know where the Emperor comes from, but he rules all.
So essentially, the correct version is the version you want to believe. In a universe where history is stored over thousands of years, and in times of unimaginable devastation and strife, it's unlikely something could be considered a cold, hard fact, especially when you're talking about events that happened in ancient history in an age where accurate recording of information seems unlikely or even impossible to have survived. The first version of these events is the often widely accepted background, which states that in the ancient times, some humans carried a natural affinity or awareness of the warp. These were the earliest psykers. They would be village shamans or witch doctors in ancient communities.
Nice.
Their premonitions led them to understand that in the future, mankind would face the darkest of times. Their decided course of action would be to commit ritual suicide en masse, returning their souls and essence to the warp to then coalesce and be reborn as one supremely powerful psychic being.
This is the main theory? What?
This being would then spend the future millennia living a Highlander-like existence, transitioning from identity to identity, sometimes taking on famous leaders in history to steer humanity in the right direction. And then upon reaching the Age of Strife, he would step into the Four to become the supreme leader of all humanity and unite us again throughout the galaxy. Now, some people take this as the most canon version of the Emperor's origin, but there are various others, including the one that I actually personally subscribe to. The shaman story is all very well and good, but it leaves me with some questions. For example, if these shaman were some of the earliest humans with only a vague awareness of the warp, how could they have such powerful precognition to foresee the need to create such a super being? In addition to that, if they were truly the earliest stowings of psychers for humanity, then surely they would not have been especially powerful, and even with their powers combined, how could they summon humanity's greatest champion? No, not Captain Planet. So those two things stand out for me. Also, their plan to commit mass suicide and then hope that they would all be reborn together seems pretty spurious. It seems to tick the boxes from an okay, I guess that's possible point of view, but it just doesn't make sense beyond that.
Vibe.
Another theory is that the Emperor was in fact one of the Old Ones, who you will remember were one of the most ancient super beings who created the Eldar, the Orcs, and even humanity.
They were dicks too, that would make sense.
Yes, really.
Hey, Angelo!
Go and look it up for those naysayers who think that they did not. This theory, again, at first is captivating, until you start to think about it more. And then you realise it doesn't really make any sense. The Old Ones were, as far as we are informed, not shapeshifters, but creatures of light and dark. There was a statement to the fact that just a single Old One escaped the brutal genocide of their race, but then was eventually killed at the birth of Slaanesh when the Eldar fell. If the Emperor was some other escaped Old One, it doesn't make logical sense that they would choose one race and then ultimately lead it. Although I suppose, devil's advocate, who's to say what would be going in the mind of this Old One after his entire race was extinguished? Maybe it had a crisis of conscience. Anything, I guess, is possible. And then not to mention also the fact that the Emperor would lead humanity to wage war on pretty much every other alien race, which wouldn't really serve any purpose within the context of an Old One's mission statement. They were originally life givers. They seeded planets with life to, create new races in the universe. And again, unless it had simply lost the plot and was operating on his own sort of mission plan. There are some things that do fit this theory though, such as Old Ones being very powerful psychic creatures. They had extended precognition, they had very extensive, almost immortal long life, and they would have the ability to genetically manipulate humans. But all of this seems very soft and is only plausible at best. For me, this theory just doesn't really fit.
Hi, Emperox.
So the last theory, and the one that I personally believe, is that the Emperor was neither the creation of some bizarre suicide pact or an Old One. Rather, something in between. It's fair to say that in any ancient history nothing is quite as it's written, and that some reading between the lines is necessary. The most ancient of history available hints that the last remaining Old One floated around the galaxy, meddling and dabbling and trying to have some last impact on the worlds which they felt they had failed and left their race completely annihilated.
Wolfbane, you should check out the Lucifer Blacks from Major Kill. These guys are regular men and women able to kill Space Marines. I will 100% check that out. Also, welcome in, Wolfbane. Nice to see you again. Nice to see all of you again. Thank you for coming in.
We know that the Old Ones were capable of creating beings of immense psychic power. This is how the ancient Eldar defeated the Necrons and Satan, who, well, let's not forget, gods capable of devouring stars. So the theory I stand by is that a fragmented remaining Old One drifted around the galaxy until he was struck by a precognition so terrible that he had no choice but to resolve becoming involved. It could be that he saw the vision of the Eldar fall or the rise of chaos. Either way, he knew that the Eldar were by now far too arrogant to accept any help and would be of no use, remembering that the Eldar had turned their backs on the Old Ones long ago. The Orcs, who were also an Old One's creation, they were too crass and mindless for such preparation. Instead, he would turn to the weak humans. Weak, but with great potential. And so he would decide on forming a divine creature, a humanoid of the most immense power, but birthed in such a way that he would not allow those humans would not immediately view him as a god, but as a man, to be not worshipped, but instill a sense of power, of awe, of destiny.
Hey, Eye of Terror, Major Kill just be raised in Aussie. I'm down with that. You shan't say more, no worries. I like what you've just said, Kagesh. Some think the Emperor is a weapon from the golden age of technology or dark age, depending on how you view it. I think that's a really interesting view. Imagine creating a biological weapon that isn't built to kill the race, but control it. That would be absolutely dead interesting. I like that theory. Psychic powers are very effective against Necrons because Necrons don't use the warp. Didn't they lose the ability when they got possessed? Or did they not have the ability anyway? I thought it was when they got possessed after the fight with the Old Ones.
There are other clues as well. Apparently, further along in Earth's ancient history, a creature crashed to Earth who had an appearance we would describe as a dragon. It would seem, though, that this dragon was in fact a small fragment of the star gods, the Satan, who had been destroyed thousands of light years away by the Necrons. Even a tiny fragment of these most powerful beings would be beyond the means of even the most powerful humans to contain. The future Emperor in this time wounded this creature and then apparently took it to Mars. I'm not sure how, but there it lay imprisoned within the planet. The final chapter of that story, that's one for another day. Still though, this helps to secure the idea that no mere reincarnation of a few shaman could produce such or perform such a task. Could an old one? Perhaps, but given the other evidence I would still discount it. But a perfectly designed humanoid of godlike form created by an old one who would know a most powerful psychic being was needed to counter not just the future darkness of man, but to face again the Satan and the day of reckoning when the Necrons would rise again. This seems for me the most logical and plausible of origins.
I like him being a weapon.
The truth, though, is that we cannot know the origin of the Emperor unless some definitive tome is discovered which provides secure evidence as to such, so we are left to speculate until then. One thing that is certain, though, is that the Emperor was a human and holds godlike psychic power. He was within humanity throughout all of history, learning, sometimes guiding, mostly sitting in the shadows, until he was needed to take a course of action that would lead us into the Age of the Imperium.
Marshmallow, simping for the Emperor, really? How you doing? Thank you for coming in. Nice to see you again. The thing about the Emperor is said in the books he remembers people like Julius Caesar and Washington. He's something called a perpetual, and he's not the only one. Okay, that's interesting. I need to learn more about perpetuals. Also, Liam Murphy also coming straight in for the simp of the Emperor. Everyone's into the Emperor. Am I the only one who wants to kill him? Put a 1 in chat if you want to kill him.
The last point worthy of mention is that the Emperor of Man would enforce a strictly secular society. In the early days of the Imperium, this would then enable humanity would identify with him as a man and not as a god. They wouldn't project any religious connotations onto him. Also, because throughout the thousands of years he spent on Earth, he would see the terrible devastation and fragmentation organized religion could cause. He believed that humanity could only achieve its full potential in a strictly secular state.
Dan, welcome in. The Shard of the Void Dragon is why the Mechanicus headquarters is on Mars. It's speculated that the Machine Spirit and the Omnissiah is actually the Void Dragon, because Catan are actual gods. Oh, well, that's interesting, because I remember the dragon and I was like, wait, he took the dragon to Mars? Like, what? But the Shard of the Void Dragon is interesting, because I remember hearing about that from one of you, actually.
However, even in the Crusading period where the Emperor would reunite the lost colonies of man, some people began to spread rumours that he was more than just a powerful man. These beliefs would run so strong it would even question some Astartes to the faith, such as Battle Captain Nathaniel Garrow, one of my favourite characters in the 40k and one of the few Space Marines from the Death Guard chapter not to be corrupted by chaos.
We also found out yesterday that maybe Vulcan will be coming back after Lion. I'd listen. And that means he saw mech boys being important in 1500 AD. That's some serious foresight. So I can't believe the leading theory is the shamans and Warhammer's got some wild ass theories.
Some citizens of the Imperium consider the Emperor's stance on faith even a test, so as to distinguish those who can see the whole of the truth, that he is in fact the one true god of mankind.
He's not a god, he doesn't want to be a god, that's the one thing I agree with him on! Calm down!
We would now reach the time known as the Age of Terror. This was the period on Earth from the 1st to the 15th millennia, that is the first 15,000 years on old Earth. A period of extreme technological expansion, from a pre-industrial era to that of fusion power and travel beyond our planet and even solar system. Humanity would first colonize new worlds within our system, first on Mars and then the moons of Jupiter, before mankind would start to look at how we could travel beyond. To achieve this next goal, colossal starships were created for humanity to cross the voids between solar systems, and powerful engines at this time. These advanced fusion drives enabled very, very fast but still sublight travel. This meant in order to reach their destination, it could take anything as long as 10 generations of human lifespan to reach their destinations. Subsequently, trade and aid between human colonies was then extremely difficult and would lead to them being established almost as independent states. Very little is known of this period as Imperial records are fragmented and limited. The Emperor during this time had no reason to interfere and so would continue his own work and research back on Earth.
I do have to say I agree. The gold-plated armour, it's not helping your whole... And the wreath, it's not helping your whole vibe. Emperor.
Study and the improvement of man, all the while remaining in the shadows. During the period between the 1st and 15th millennium, various events of discovery and importance took place that would finally propel us to create our first interstellar confederation in the 15th millennium. One of the most important events of note would be during M4. Humanity would discover the warp and begin to research it. This is specifically relevant as it would have been one of the discoveries that would lead the Emperor to understanding the necessity of him coming into the fore.
Hey Sean, welcome in. Nice to see you. Considering the best armor the Imperium has is actually just a mining suit from the Dark Age, that's hilarious. That is actually hilarious. Also, don't think I mentioned, Dan, it's fine that you don't know. It's that type of live. Yes, I like to be interactive with people, so I have it on ultra low. Plus being 10 feet tall and glowing gold would cause people to view him as a god. Just a little bit.
As we reach the 15th millennium, humanity would enter a golden age of technology. This would be the highest point in mankind's technological achievements. It would last for some 10,000 years, and humanity continued its rise in technology, science and power, spreading and colonizing mankind all across the Milky Way galaxy.
There is a theory that the Emperor planned all religious cancellation to make himself a god. I believe that. I believe that. Imagine. That's how much of a dick the Emperor is. He literally convinced you all to get rid of all your gods so he could be god. I believe it. I hate the Emperor. Also, knights were built for labor. True. A Baneblade is listed as light reconnaissance vehicle in the STC file. That's cool. That's real cool. Gork and Mork is the way to be. They won't clay you. They were just for you.
We could create our first galactic empire, ruled from Earth, the homeworld, and establish massive trade networks that further powered expansion and advancement. This earlier period in the Age of Technology has a subtitle known as the Stellar Exodus. This marks the time when humanity made its first colonies on other worlds, and also beyond the solar system. These initial colonies were reached using the ships that were still only capable of sublight speeds and were restricted by this, as well as our developing but limited knowledge of building these vast scale ships.
And that's why the Emperor didn't tell his sons about chaos, because it wasn't their job to fight it. He was arrogant to think he could fight chaos. He's always arrogant. He's a dick. That's why I want to kill the Emperor.
When these ships reached their destination though, they would be then slowly deconstructed and the materials used to build the colonies. Some would become manufactorums capable of producing massive war machines, or then back then defensive machines, things such as Imperial Knights and even Titans, which the colonies would use to defend themselves against the dangers of the galaxy.
There's a reason why the Emperor banned religion. He was trying to starve the Chaos Gods. The reason why he created his sons wasn't for them to fight chaos, but humanity itself. Ooh. Also, Sean, I've seen so many comments of people saying that. They may not put up their hands today, but I know you guys are there. Voldemort does it. I can't wait to hear Voldemort. Just because y'all are hyping them both up so much, I've been so excited. Cured my insomnia, that's amazing. 40k needs a full dive VR system like the Matrix. Would you really want to go in there though, Risotto? Risotto. One-on-one. It's just me and you right now. Do you really want to go into a world where there is only war? Only war. Hell yeah! Let's go. Hey! Night at the Blackfire, we are 20 minutes in. We are not there yet. So don't worry. I got you.
In a comparable way to early colonies on Earth, this meant they had to be self-sufficient, and due to the large timescales involved before anyone would likely reach out to them again, they would develop their own cultures and languages largely influenced by the noble families established on these interstellar voyages, as well as physical elements on the new homeworld. The planet's characteristics would also shape the way in which their societies would evolve. Now, some 6,000 years later, around the period of Millennium 21, mankind now began a process of militarization. It is not known who or for what reason created this process or started it off, but along with our expansion and colonization of planets, we also began to expand and develop our weapons and forces. Fragments of what was developed during this age of technology, such as Imperial Knights, Titans, Land Raider designs and so on, would later be recovered by the Imperium far into the future. The largest proportion, however, would be lost to the tides of time, and we can only imagine or hope to continue recovering these lost and most powerful of technologies in the 41st millennium. Humanity had risen to a period of immense power through our technology, and whilst the Emperor of Man existed, he had not made himself known to mankind. He continued to bide his time, lying in the shadows, studying, planning, observing. The very fact that the Emperor is one of the few who would live through this time and on into the Age of the Imperium, and this would then have far-reaching implications for humanity, as the Emperor would carry his knowledge and strength of this golden age into a time when none would recall it, and where it would be of critical importance to our survival.
Good luck, many have tried to kill him. Horus is powered by all 4 Chaos Gods, and the Emperor obliterated him for existence, and the gods couldn't save Horus, but hear me out. I think me and Slaanesh would make a real good team for this. The only way to kill chaos is to kill everything that has a soul, and that's why the Tyranids pose a big threat to chaos. That's really interesting. So, Tyranids, I already said they were bad, but they're out to kill Slaanesh. They're dead to me. I'm gonna kill them too. Slaanesh on the tabletop. Me and Slaanesh just like, you know, and then we'll just kill everyone. Humans were crazy OP during that time, from time travel, to overlay you with a copy yourself, to killing both. Oh shit, do you think the Emps was in a rush to complete the Great Crusade to not fight chaos, but to prep for the Tyranids? Ooh. That's why Malice, the 5th Chaos God, is summoned. I'm gonna learn about him later. Not today, but soon.
The Emperor, he would use this knowledge of the age of technology to bring humanity back to a glimmer of what once had been. In the thousands of years where humanity established its first interstellar empire, we would become, as much as the Eldar, supremely dependent on technology. Humankind had risen to a level of godlike understanding, and this was embraced and practiced by the people of the time.
What do you mean, Wolfbane? They can't do that. Who am I gonna look at till she's back? Lilith was okay, but like, she ain't Slaanesh. Hey, don't talk about my high school years, Sean.
The Empire of Mankind was seen as a bastion of technological achievement and began to use a new class of humans entitled the Navigators to expand our reach and use the newly discovered warp to travel beyond the distances of existing star drives and cover vast distances in a short time. A navigator's role is to, as the name suggests, protect and guide a ship through the tides and dangers of the warp.
Can I just say, Malice is that kid who has the shirt that goes, I don't discriminate, I hate everyone equally. That's Malice. From everything you've told me, I know he's that kid with that shirt. And that was me at 14. But also, people think the Tyranids are running away from someone. That's terrifying. What is chasing the Tyranids?
Eventually, over time, humanity would find the warp had become too turbulent to traverse. But in this time, navigators, they're not strictly psychers as such. They possess a special gene called, unsurprisingly, the navigator gene. They also possess other abnormal characteristics, including a third eye in the forehead, as well as some more alien appearances such as no pupils in their human eyes and translucent skin, as well as maybe larger than normal appendages. Their origin is believed to have not been a natural development, but to have come about through genetic experimentation and engineering in this period of the age of technology.
Sounds about right. We seem to fuck with everyone's genetics. Also, listen, Lilith is fit, but she ain't fit enough to, like, kill Slaanesh. I'm not going to allow that. I'm not going to allow that. You hear me, Games Workshop? She dies before Slaanesh dies. The Elder are going to do a ritual to get the blades of the Eldar gods and awaken the Elder goddess of death. They were so close where the last blade is in Slaanesh's palace, so they're going to raid her home. She's going to fucking murder them. Watch.
It was likely that mankind discovered the warp and that it could be utilised for crossings, but that required a safe means to traverse it and looked to create a solution to that problem. Mankind's age of expansion and technological glory across the galaxy would lead to many worlds requiring their own localised defence forces. In this time, humanity's mastery of technology was largely unequalled, and this would be employed in the defence and relative growth of the colonies.
I don't think Nurgle will mind that his garden was burnt. Have you seen how he lives? What? Wait, Beatmaster? Lilith is fit? Who's Yvain? No, wait. No one mentioned her yet. I was asking you yesterday for fit women in Warhammer. No one mentioned her. I'm gonna give her a solid, like, 7.5. 7.5. Like, she's aight. There's defo some pictures that are better than others. She's getting a 7.5. Slaanesh is a straight up 10. I'm sorry. Was it Gilliman though? Really? With the Tyranids, it'd either be they're running away from something even more threatening than them, or because of the psychic power from the Golden Throne shone so brightly that it attracted them. I'm hoping it's the Golden Throne. Oh no, he was super pissed. Really? Why? Shadow Sun, like moths to a flame. Nurgle literally screamed when the Emperor, while possessing Gilliman, burned his garden. Holy fuck. Well, here's the thing in Slaanesh domain. Has 6 levels before you get to a palace, and they're all death traps. And then there's the home, Slaanesh. All she has to do is smile and just stone. I'd let her turn me to stone. Emperor's children, here I come. Who was the Inquisitor that Cain slept with? I'll tell you now. Felicia Tabor. There isn't a lot about her. Take a 7. Ethereal Stern? Who is this? Shadow... What's Shadow? What's Shadow Sun? Not my type. Like, I vibe it, but I'm not into it. Like, yeah, she's alright, but she's just, I'm not into it. Hey! They're not pedos, alright? They're just depraved. Is Shadow Sun actually a person? One sec, let me... If it is, I can't find it. Sadly, I knew no more fancy, it's fine. Amberley Vale. Also, there's one Grey Knight that went into Celestia's realm and withstood all 6 levels of sin and temptation without trouble. Yet he succumbed to Slaanesh and now he's a corrupted Grey Knight. Who wouldn't be though? Have you met Slaanesh? Alright, let's see Amberley. Ooh, Amberley's a bit of something. Now that I can get behind. Now that I can get behind. Literally. Yeah, no, I can get behind Amberley. Yeah, no, she cute. She defo cute. They literally are. I'm not joking. Oh, damn. Oh, Shadow Sun is a Tau commander. Okay. Dead by... You watch... Like, I've made so many Futurama jokes. Like, where have you been? Rosado, where have you been? I heard there's an upcoming book, The Harley Quinn Elder, and a bunch of Eldar are going to brave the horrors of a realm and launch a massive war and break into a palace, so Cadia 2.0. You get it, Dan. You get it. You get it. Right, let's get back to the video. I'm learning.
One of these defense forces, one of the most powerful of them, would be the Imperial Knights. These were colossal war machines that towered over all they surveyed on a battlefield. They were built with the knowledge of the Golden Age of technology, and these giants survived until the Imperial Age, but they can essentially no longer be constructed from scratch, and as is often the case with technology in the Imperium, it is now merely maintained. The Imperial Knights themselves were operated by nobles from the colony worlds who would be entombed within them. They are sworn to protect their citizens from all Xenos threats and the endless nightmares in the universe. As the Knights would advance into the later ages, they continued their noble values and morals. Some of the Knights are the most selfless and dedicated forces within the Imperium, as well as being some of the oldest.
I don't think they're free. I think you pay them with your identity stolen. I'm just warning you now, Sean.
As with most technology from the Dark or Golden Age technology, the Knights are immensely powerful, allowing them to run and fight as much as a Dreadnought would fight, but on a much larger scale. The These ancient heroes have fought thousands of battles across millennia and stand ready to defend Imperial citizens and support Astartes anywhere in the galaxy. After the Knights we have the Titans, and Titans are the epic war machines of...
Alright, I would like to state yes, I got the Titan wrong in Hell's Reach.
Thanks to the follow.
Risotto!
Love ya.
Thank you for subscribing!
Thanks to the follow.
We're actually doing this week, I love Fulgrim, okay, I'm ready. We're actually doing this whole week of lives and videos on Warhammer to thank everyone for 4K watch hours. So like, thank you, that really means a lot to me. Also, don't worry if you gotta, I'm a Slaanesh, so I'm not gonna lie, I'm sorry, but have you seen her butt? But like, yeah, this is a thank you for 4,000 watch hours. So, biggest meme character? Yo, no, I haven't got 1,000 subs. I'm still like 600 subs away. But you know what? It doesn't matter because like I'm building a really great community, and that's kind of what I wanted from this. My friend Dorian got me into WK40, and he was like, learn about it on the internet, and I was like, why? And he was like, just go on YouTube and learn about it, and I was like, okay. This is my great Crusade. Yeah, essentially. Fulgrim's storyline was a huge and missed opportunity for his redemption, and all due to a badly written short story. Oh, ouch. Marines/followers are awesome. I am awesome. But I am an Emperor's children, I'm sorry.
The Imperium. A Knight and the smallest Titan can be anything like 9-10 meters, but the big Titans can be anything up to 50 meters. They are gargantuan death machines.
Sorry, I forgot I was talking. So I did get this wrong in Hell's Reach. I apologize. Publicly, I am apologizing. I won't get it wrong again. Okay. Giant death machine.
Many people believe that the Mechanicum were originally responsible for creating the Titans. This is not strictly correct. They do construct some Titans, but many they simply maintain. This is because the technology used to create Titans is very, very old, and like many things in the universe of Warhammer 40,000 for the Imperium, a lot of technology is merely maintained because of its complexity. Simpler devices are constructed, but this happens less and less. But the Mechanicum do create some Titans for the Imperium. Originally, the Mechanicus found versions that were completely autonomous, created in the golden age of technology. And the largest Titan so far discovered was upon the lost forge world of Charania. It was a completely autonomous war machine and was dubbed the Castigator class Titan. Its schematic was apparently also contained within a standard template construct on this planet, and it was far superior to any class of Titan utilized by the Adeptus Mechanicus or any other intelligent race in the galaxy.
Isn't that kind of to do with the fact that orcs, if they believe it works, it will? I am a Slaanesh simp and I am proud. I'm a simp and I'm proud.
This was so far the only known discovered Castigator class Titan, but it was subsequently destroyed by Imperial Grey Knights. Grey Knights are the secretive and unbreakable order of Astartes warriors dedicated to the protection of the Imperium from the very darkest foes that humanity faces in the 41st millennium. Now, the portion of the STC database containing the data for the manufacture of the Castigator class Titan was also destroyed by the Mechanicus. It possessed AI, which is strictly outlawed and heretical within the Imperium. Secondly, it had somehow long ago been corrupted by living chaos energy, and for this reason it could obviously no longer be supported.
We're not that far in. About 26 minutes, we got distracted with the same thing as yesterday, stern fatherly disapproval. Attractive women in the Warhammer universe. Yeah, they sent more. Also, we is the biggest and the baddest and the meanest. Like, have you heard the Orc song? Because my friend Dorian plays it on my stream all the time, and I swear, I hear that in my dreams. You want to go back and watch that? It will be on the video. then what I need to do is start actively opposing Slaanesh and she'll come crawling, is what you're telling me? Because I'll do it. I'll do it. She wants me to go to the other side, so she wants me. Like, I'll do it. Wow! There's an animation where the Vindicator assassin can't shoot a Farsi because he sees her face. Oh shit. Slaanesh also ate the Elder Gods, and she tried to eat the soul of the Aisha Elder Goddess, but Nurgle saved, captured her, and is now in Nurgle's realm. Oh shit. But yeah, don't worry, Stern. Like, it's gonna be available. Are you ready? We're learning about the technology and how AI isn't allowed.
Imperial records of this event, though, note that the cost of life and resources required to destroy this Titan monstrosity was severe. The key point here, though, is that mankind was developing machines in the golden age of technology that would never again be equalled. They could be merely copied, emulated, or used as a template to work from in the future.
Yes, I have. I watched the Bricky Space Marines Legion video. Falling Gamers, nice to meet you. Gonna warn you now, I'm a fan of Emperor's Children, I'm a stan of Slaanesh. Everyone else is pretty much Imperial, but like, be aware of that before you interact with me, because I will staunchly defend them and try and kill the Emperor repeatedly. Nurgle fell in love with her and protected her. The catch is she is his prisoner. Hey Connor! And Dominus Nox. Ooh. Nurgle gives Aisha what he sees to be a bouquet of flowers every day, which is actually a bunch of diseases. Disgusting. Funny though.
But our level of knowledge, our rules and guides on what could be created, due in part to events that were yet to come, would very much limit humanity's advancement in the millennia that lay ahead. I mentioned a moment ago something called an STC. This denotes a device known as a standard template construct. These are one of the single most valuable objects in the galaxy for the Imperium, and their importance was no less during the Age of Technology. So what is an STC? STC systems were advanced AI computers created during the Golden or Dark Age of Technology, and are said to have contained the sum total of human, scientific and technological knowledge.
So briefly, we've not gone into detail on that yet. That is something that we are going into. I'm watching part 1 and part 2 of this to prepare to watch The Emperor Does TTS, which has been requested by so many people, but I was told I'm not allowed to do it until I do part 1 and part 2 of this, so that's what we're doing first. But stick around and you'll see me learn all of it. And also, Stern, you know what? Me and you on a wavelength here. I think I can make her have some Stern family disapproval, if you know what I mean.
STCs were created when human interstellar civilization was at its technological peak. Their original purpose was to enable colonists to survive on the new worlds they arrived upon, as they could not carry securely the mass amount of knowledge gained by humanity at this time, and even if they could, they might not have people capable of understanding how to utilize this. The STC solved this problem. It enabled the colonies to access all of humanity's knowledge and display it in a way for them to be able to create anything they needed from the resources available and solve any issue that could arise for them on the new home worlds, no matter the geography, resource limitations or climate. This would enable them to build anything from a simple lasgun to a fortified bunker, massive war machines or an atmospheric processor. STC systems possess the ability to not just store information but also to produce new designs to meet changing circumstances. They are immensely powerful sources of information and power, and consequently the Imperium places a high value on obtaining these lost relics of ancient knowledge. Even though now, after many thousands of years had passed, most of the discovered STCs are damaged to the point they only contain fragments of their former stored information. But Imperial forces will still use any means or resources necessary to obtain an STC once it has been discovered, even if this means the sacrifice of legions of military or civilian Imperial citizens.
I'm more into her personality, let's be honest. Orcs feet, we're gonna show them spiky, stupid spiky chaos boys. Elder pointy ears, bugs, and stupid humans. Wise was the bestest. It could be any one of us, it could be you, it could be me. Alpharius always shows up at some point. Listen, Listen, being hot is 95% about the personality, and Slaanesh, she dynamite, you know? She knows what she's doing. She gets me. I get her. I'm just saying. Then about Orcs, Chaos, and Tau, I certainly will. It's Slaanesh, whatever form makes you happy. It's hers. Real. Right. This is where you guys will find out one day that I am the embodiment of Slaanesh, and that I am responsible for tragedy amongst the galaxies. You like corn, so does Slaanesh. One guy found an STC of a new type of knife and the Imperium gave him a planet. That is the kind of big brain thinking that we need. I'd do the same thing. Slaanesh is Death by Snoo, and I love Futurama, and I love that reference, Beastmaster.
From the golden age of technology and into the ages to come, these valuable systems will be lost or destroyed, so that now, in the age of the Imperium, they have become beyond rare.
I'm okay with that, Connor. I'm willing to take the risk.
Almost just a legend. So the consequent discovery of remnants of any new technology from the Dark Age of technology puts an STC's value to humanity beyond estimation. The little knowledge that has been recovered from damaged STC units is then utilised, copied and stored by the tech priests of the Adeptus Mechanicus, who are based deep on the primary forge homeworld of Mars. They believe that STCs are the most holy of artifacts and will seek and protect them at any cost.
If I have sex with Slaanesh, I better die!
This little divergence is an important one because an STC recovery, no matter its state of repair, still remains as one of the most important objectives for Imperial forces in the 41st millennium. The holy grail of this quest, though, although unlikely, would be to recover an intact STC, thereby gifting the Imperium all of the stored knowledge of mankind from the golden age of technology.
Oh, I'll steal a little bit of her essence. You know what I mean?
If the Imperium were able to recover an STC of this standard, it would catapult the existing human society into becoming yet again one of the most advanced and significantly, if not the most powerful state in the galaxy.
Nice.
The STC Crusade also explains in part about the state of technology and development of the Imperium, in that much of the knowledge regarding tech is replicated or learned rather than invented and created. Although new tech does come along, it's not overtly specified why so little resources are put into research now. It could be speculated though, however, that mankind relied so strongly upon the Emperor in the last 10 millennia that now they believe only he is capable of directing mankind's advancement, and they solely focus on maintaining him and maintaining the state of Imperial affairs. So we return to our story, and at this time in the golden age of technology, humanity continues to expand across the galaxy. Initially slowly, as the gigantic starships we crafted were incapable of using the warp to traverse space. And as we learned previous, they took generations to reach their destination. They were essentially travelling worlds, similar to the Eldar craft world of the 41st millennium. When these ships reached their destination, they would slowly be deconstructed, and their materials could be used to create massive war machines such as the Imperial Knights and Titans, which the colony could use to defend themselves against the dangers of the galaxy. Dangers such as the Eldar and Orcs, who were first discovered in this period as a result of our reaching out beyond our own system to more regularly explore the galaxy.
Nice.
However, interestingly, during this time, humanity was actually considered more powerful than it is in the 41st millennium. This strength was mainly due to our technology rather than actual physical forces, such as Astartes, who did not exist in this age.
I've noticed that, but at the same point, they've kind of lost a lot of the like, as far as I understand this, correct me if I'm wrong, they lost a lot of their technology. So they kind of have to have an understanding of where they've come from to understand where they can go. So I can see why we'd be less powerful than we were in the previous millennia. I'm correct! Fuck yeah!
Science was humanity's primary religion, and the society of man perceived itself as having reached a time where no one could be a real challenge to us. To a degree this was actually true, so much so that the Xenos races of Eldar and Orc actually signed non-aggression pacts with mankind, which seems bizarre from the Orc point of view, but there we are. The discovery and use of interstellar drives, that is, an engine enabling cross-warp travel, now powered humanity's expansion and domination of the galaxy forward. A federated government was formed, enabling us to create a strong trade community and, most importantly, remain unified and powerful throughout our colonies spread across the galaxy, aiding and supporting where necessary with either materials, logistics or military. The exact form and nature of this federation is unknown from this time, as so much knowledge and history was lost. To speculate though, it seems likely that from the way in which humans would live at this time, the Federation would have focused more on discovery, science and working to better humanity, as well as supporting our widespread colonies. As the societies we had seeded across the galaxy grew stronger and more developed, most humans would live long, peaceful lives where menial actions were carried out by automation, leaving people time to indulge in their own lives and dedicate themselves to the glorious expansion of mankind.
They also don't try inventing new stuff because they assume all the best technology was already made by past humans. They just have to find it. That's a dumb thought. Humans are dumb. They probably haven't made the best yet. You probably won't make the best either. But you know what you will do? Probably something better. The reason why the Orcs signed a non-aggression pact is because of the nanoteers. Mankind don't have to physically fight them all. All they have to do is just launch a missile with nanoteers and they'll kill them. When did Orcs sign anything? Don't ask me. Luetin said it. Call is seen as a radical because he actually seeks technological advancement. That's insane. That's exactly what they should be doing. And I also believe it was in 30k that they signed the agreement, when humans were still up and coming, but the big dogs on the park. Probably why. It's not a fight, then it's not worth aggression. Not so pointless. Welcome in. But yeah, agreed.
This golden age of peace bears a stark contrast to the unforgiving brutality of the 41st millennium, the Imperium where many citizens are now born into lives that are shorter, work-driven, and even hellish by comparison.
Nanites? So nanites? Right, so I'm going to say it 3 different ways and you tell me 1, 2 or 3. Nanites. Nanites. Nan-its. 1, 2, 3. Nanny? Nanny? But seriously, 1, 2 or 3. Nanites. Okay, so I got it right. What do you mean?
Back with our timeline though, and although navigators had now been discovered and enabled interstellar travel, psychers, that is humans with strong psychic ability, had for the longest time evaded or simply passed undetected. It would be in the age of technology where this new class of human would finally be identified. These psychers seemingly largely avoided the demonic possessions which had occurred for the old ones, Orc and Eldar. It is unclear why this would be, but again you may speculate that the Emperor had a role to play in guiding and shielding humanity through this time. As we know, he had always lain in the shadows, ensuring our safety and creating small influence until he felt it was necessary to come to the fore. Another possibility is that by comparison, the Orcs and Eldar with their more advanced psychic powers simply shone brighter.
Hey Gregory! To be honest, aging humanity was insane. It would make sense to see old human tech as the best humanity can get. But this is the thing. You can always improve. Humanity is dumb. Also, they're basically super small robots that are so small they can go into bloodstream. That sounds really cool. I did kind of get that from nanotech. But, you know, if Orcs don't want to crump, that says a lot about how strong humanity was. Well, that's what I was thinking. To be fair, it's when humans were big dog on the park. So, like, you know what I mean? Shows where we've gone now. They'll kill us at any point.
As we know, the demons of the warp are actually attracted to psychic power in real space, like moths to a lamp, and so they appeared amid the depths of the galaxy, a brighter beacon for the chaotic creatures to be attracted towards, whereas the human psychers were very early in development, their powers were less attractive, they did not stand out so much. These psychic mutations were initially limited to only a few individuals per billion or so humans, but toward the end of the Age of Technology, psychers would appear throughout the colonies more widespread than ever before, and some colonies who were advanced and open-minded, they could see the potential advantages brought by human psychers, and they were protected and allowed to develop and explore their abilities. However, on other, less advanced human colonies, they were often killed and hunted down as the people here feared rather than embraced their divergent powers, much of, similar to witch hunts.
Okay, so 2 points that I want to make. Sean, hilarious. My friend Dorian would love you. Not so pointless. If it summons a demon, you should be strong enough to kill the demon. If you're not strong enough to kill the demon, why are you building shit, Here's the thing about how powerful the Golden Age of technology was. One ship came back to the 40k millennium, was easily able to one-shot a battle barge when the Space Marines invaded the ship. Well, listen. They had the best technology because they developed. We're not developing, we're not going to get better. We may not find all of what humanity created, but what we can do is develop new technologies in order to maximize where we should be. We're behind. Terra is losing. Sorry.
As I hinted at earlier, one of the reasons during the Golden Age of technology that humanity was able to not only survive, but stretch itself out to colonize and conquer worlds in the galaxy, not to mention defending itself against aggressive Xenos, would be due to their reliance on AI and the machine creations of the time. However, as nearly all science fiction dictates, these primary sentient machines in the Human Galactic Federation would be known as the Men of Iron, and they would stereotypically turn on their creators and enter us into a cataclysmic war.
The Men of Iron are on! I just wanted you to know. Just the Men of Iron are on.
An STC containing a template for the Men of Iron was discovered by Imperial forces on a Chaos-controlled world. It became apparent that much as the Castigator-class Titan, the Men of Iron here had also been corrupted by Chaos, and the AI of these creations was sentient. So we can perhaps speculate that the Men of Iron initially resented their human creators, but combined with this were also corrupted, possibly by Chaos, which at the time was relatively unknown to mankind, hence the lack of any documentation to support such speculation. It is, however, a possibility and stacks up with what we know of the corruptibility of human AI creations. Also, the intent of the dark forces of Chaos to obliterate humanity once it became aware of its existence. Regardless of the reason though, this war was one of the greatest disasters to befall humanity.
I just want to say, not pointless. I make things all the time without knowing why I'm doing it. Here I am on a Warhammer 40k channel that my friend convinced me to react to because he wanted me to learn about it. Here I am. This is a dude that watched me play Mario on the internet and suddenly went, yo, you should watch 40k. And now here I am. Try everything. Who cares what the purpose is? We'll figure it out.
Humanity, and would rage for centuries. The exact length of the war is not recorded. The conflict was eventually won by humanity, but at a great cost. The damage caused by this conflict to interstellar human society was hugely destructive. We would lose masses of knowledge and technology, not to mention devastating humanity's economic strength and political unity.
I agree, Matt. Thank you. And I'm glad to have you. Actually, you guys have been amazing. I've loved meeting the 40k community, and I'm having so much fun with you all. Demonette, I'm down with the Demonettes. We went Mad Max after the Men of Iron. True.
The war would begin the series of events that would lead into the collapse of the Federation of Humanity at the end of the Age of Technology. As so often is the case, very little information exists from this time, largely due to the Imperium being so wary of a similar disaster happening again. And this is why, amongst the Imperium and mankind, you'll find only the simplest forms of AI. It is viewed as being exceptionally dangerous technology and is strictly outlawed. A substitute is often to combine human and machine into mindless drone-like beings.
I do agree on AI though. 100% I think AI is ridiculously dangerous. AI has gone too far. Stop it. Listen here. Listen here. Tech people. Just switch. Just go to something else. Something more beneficial. Stay away from, AI. It's not good. It's not going to end up good. And it's true. I like the fact. Yeah, no, Cortana didn't do anything for me either, so like. But yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for being here. It really has been great being a part of this. Oh, I've been recommended that. Hey, Dad. Oh, no worries. Thank you so much for popping by. Appreciate you. Appreciate all of you.
Known as servitors. Servitors are the Imperium's cybernetic servants, lacking true self-awareness, and are created from the bodies of either condemned criminals who are unpleasantly lobotomized, or vat-grown humanoids whose bodies and brains are partially replaced with machine systems. As a result of this catastrophic conflict between the men of iron and humanity in the golden age of technology, it is now considered one of the most severe crimes in Imperial society to develop a self-aware, artificially intelligent machine. It is just considered too dangerous to even consider. Around Millennium 23, the warp was taking hold of psychers and wreaking havoc on human colonies. Feudal night worlds were more conservative and less abiding of psychers, as we said previously, who had hunted them down. These would fare better than the others, who had adopted them more open-mindedly at the time. The knights in their semi-titan armour would battle massive warp entities and serve to protect the planet's human population, abiding to their strict code of feudal discipline and ability. Very often, they would be the bastions that protected mankind's worlds, and their importance cannot be underestimated at this time. As is often the case in history, it is not one, but a series of disasters that leads to total ruination, and this was no exception for the glorious empire humanity had established during the Dark Age of technology. Whilst it was struggling to recover from a collapse in its unity, as well as destruction of many of its resources and its ability to trade efficiently with other worlds, a new disaster would occur that would see the end of humanity's golden age and instead throw us further into near total annihilation.
I did say if he misses anything, do tell me in chat, and you guys know I read chat, so like just drop it in and let me know. Love Dawn of War, the cinematics may be fun to react to. Ooh, well, I was actually thinking of starting reading the books. So actually, if anyone has any book recommendations or like the stories, and knows where I can get hold of them, like drop me a link in the comments after the video so that I can keep them, because I won't be able to like just search these comments like I do the regular comments. So I would really love that. I kind of actually do want to get into the books of it. Space Marine? I never played that game. My first dip into it was Hell's Reach. That was the first thing I ever saw about it. That sounds so cool. Yeah, Wolfsbane. You get it. You get it. Don't talk about Dawn of War 3. I've never seen it. Well, the thing is, Stan, I actually like reading books over audiobooks. Purely because I like to like create my own audiobooks, if that makes sense. Like, you know? I'm a bit weird. But yeah, a good place to start. Yeah, like that's literally the first thing that I ever saw was Hell's Reach. And it was really interesting. Got me here. That was only like 2 months ago.
The race of man would never again reach this golden pinnacle of technological achievement.
Lame. Sorry. The Age of Strife. I'm glad I am.
As we learned in ancient Eldar lore, it was at this time that the Eldar out in the galaxy would fall into near total destruction.
Ooh.
These would be dark days indeed, as the Eldar were almost wiped out in a cataclysmic annihilation as the Chaos god Slaanesh was born into existence from the horrifically depraved mire that Eldar society had fallen into. This was a disaster for the Eldar, nearly extinguishing their light from the universe completely, but it didn't do humanity any favours either. The near destruction of the Eldar and birth of Slaanesh only came to mark the end of the Age of Strife.
I've not, I would love to. If you wouldn't mind, if the Soul Drinker series is good, at the end of the video, maybe just like drop me a link of where I could get them, or like just the name of them so I can look them up. Caiaphas Kane follows a commission of the Imperial Guard. Ooh, nice. Okay, that's cool. I'd be down. I did like the character development from Diomedes between DOW 2 and 3. He stepped down as first captain and became a chaplain. Ooh, very nice. And I'm glad the audio readers are very good. I'm glad to hear that. Like, I don't know, I like to make up my own voices and stuff in my own head and just like, you know what I mean? Get my own view of characters. Like, I'm very visual when it comes to reading. So what?
Caused it prior to these events was the ever-expanding sea of psychic energy known as the Warp. For many millennia, this had been growing more and more powerful, fueled by the nightmarish depravity that was Eldar society. Around the end of Millennium 24 and the beginning of 25, mankind was still struggling to recover from the disastrous war against its Men of Iron and its far-reaching impact on the previously secure and strong human federation.
Very good to hear the Kane book's pretty good and probably humorous. That'd be cool. The Hunt for Voldurius. Very nice. So Risotto. Yes it is, but not in the live. I had someone send me a video of a woman deep throating a cucumber on my Twitch account, and now I've banned links across all of my channels, just in case, because I don't want to deal with that again. Cain is the hero we deserve. Is it like Cain and Abel Cain? Or is it like a new Cain? Oh, hero of Tau and the Imperium. Oh, nice. Yeah. So it won't time you out or anything, but it won't allow the link, essentially. I do allow them though in the comment section, so any videos you want to drop in there, feel free. It's just while I'm live, in case someone shares something inappropriate, I won't obviously be able to check.
With their galactic unity destroyed, as well as suffering from the inevitable wounds of war, material shortages, mass loss of life and destruction of infrastructure, we would now face a new problem. Warp travel was becoming increasingly difficult. The warp's instability, caused in part by the Eldar's depraved psychic society, meant that many ships now would become lost and consumed by the warp as they were travelling through. This was not an issue for the Eldar themselves, as they used their webways to travel, which were outside of that warp space. For humanity though, it would be a severe problem, and its impact would deal the fatal blow to an already fragile empire. The losses and damage caused by the war with the Men of Iron, combined with now being unable to travel across the warp to cross those great distances in the galaxy, would ultimately return humanity to a pre-Dark Age of technology state, where only sublight travel was possible. This was a disaster. Trade and support could no longer be conducted, as these journeys would now take generations to complete. Humanity was once again isolated as it had been millennia before. The warp storms and the isolation they would create would last for over 5,000 years, and their effect on human society across the galaxy was catastrophic.
Imagine if your honey was on another planet and then suddenly that got stopped, and like your bird's on another planet like fucking 5 million years away, and you're just like, whistling ash.
Some planets with a significantly advanced human colony would survive into the future if they had the means to defend and support themselves. It's important to understand that when a system is set up with no established backup, its collapse has an immediate and profound impact. This was the case with mankind's trade system.
I know, right, Marshmallow? No other choices there. Watching the Rain, I do like to read. I really love reading, so that's really cool.
It had grown over time to enable many planets to survive solely on imports from other rich parts of the Human Federation. Without this infrastructure and no way to gain outside support, disaster was inevitable. Many would turn inwardly to the colony, consuming themselves from the inside out, first with barbaric civil war and later total anarchy, fighting over the scarce resources that remained. The final phase often led the significantly depleted population into a feudal system of warlords and barbarism. This chaos was repeated across the majority of human worlds in this period, even including Earth.
Okay, so... So, right, there's like a couple different types of books that I'm into. Yeah, chaos! We're like halfway through, but you're actually in the description as one of the people who did request this. I'm doing 1 today and 2 tomorrow. So, I like books with a good back setting. I also like books with a lot of war. So like, actually, I want combat. I want descriptive combat. I want really good development of colonies. I don't care what kind of like faction they're essentially with, but a good colony development or a good like, for example, the Necrons trying to save the race. That's well up my alley. Does that make sense? So either like colonies and development of them, or just give me like descriptive, incredible battle scenes.
At this time on Earth, large areas across the planet had become massive cities reaching for hundreds of miles, and having become adapted to a system where all activities were conducted by machines, Earth also now relied heavily on trade from colonized worlds to support the extremely high population count. Additionally, much of the planet was no longer capable of food production and hadn't been for millennia, hence the need for colonies and expansion in the first place. With the inability to travel and trade, Earth descended into a similar fate of the less advanced worlds. First panic and general disorder, then food riots, resource hoarding, and finally complete anarchy. A tribal warlord system was all that remained of the few survivors left on Earth, brutal warriors who battled out across the deserts and hives of the remnants of civilization. This whole situation might sound unbelievable that society could collapse so quickly and to such a severe degree, but it's worth considering that in this time human society had built itself up to be so strong in belief of its own invincibility that they simply did not and could not have anticipated the severity of the warp storms or how they would debilitate the trade and support systems that they had been relying upon. Human history is littered with examples of sheer arrogance outweighing logic and reason, as well as blindly staring down dangerous facts in favour of belief in our own self-importance. The lack of planning when it comes to losing their infrastructure across human systems was an acute example of human arrogance. It would now seem as well that whatever had protected human psyches from demonic possession would now end. It's my speculation that, as previously stated, the Emperor was what provided this shielding, even though he was not known to humanity at this time, for he knew the power, importance and value of human psyches in the dark times that would lie ahead. Without this bubble of protection that had invisibly existed prior to this time, humanity's weak psyches would be consumed, possessed and go completely insane, causing chaos among isolated, colonized worlds. This period of complete anarchy would last for some 5,000 years, and during this time many colonies would forget their family out in the galaxy, as well as losing vast amounts of technology and knowledge. Only fragments of the glory of humanity would remain, preserved on the advanced worlds who were capable to survive this dark time.
What are you saying, Stern Fatherly? Are you saying there's some Slanesh in that book? Wow.
By the 28th millennium, almost all traces of civilization on Earth were gone. Instead, techno-barbarians battled one another over the scraps of the ancient human race. Mars, however, was one of the few worlds to undergo a different process. After a brief period of anarchy, the tech priests of the cult Mechanicus emerged victorious over the Psyker mutants and then unified their homeworld. The priests visited Earth, but upon seeing its barren destruction, wrote it off as unsalvageable. They used any titans they had to help them in the future reunification of man. They would also be one of the few worlds to reach out and recolonize planets in this time. Using their knowledge of the warp, they chose moments of calm amid the storms of the time in the warp to travel through and establish new forge worlds. These were replicas of the tech homeworld of Mars and enabled them to continue support and recovery of the technology of man, as well as production of munitions and simpler war machines. But for humanity, its golden age was over. This dark age of technology had fallen apart catastrophically. Many of the weapons that once served mankind brought us to near destruction and turned lush, garden worlds into irradiated deserts. Mechanical factory worlds into dystopian nightmares, beautifully advanced and artistic colonies turned into barbaric, nightmarish hells devoid of all morality. The Age of Strife was upon mankind, and only the further darkness of the future lay ahead.
I've just been hypnotized by that beat. Like, honestly, hypnotized. Thank you all for the book recommendations. I really do appreciate it.
Roughly 5,000 years later, around the period of millennium 30 to 31, human society had reached a state of pitiful decay after cannibalizing itself for millennia. The Eldar had also reached the peak of their social decay, and so heralded the agonizing birth of the Chaos God Slaanesh, who would consume the majority of their population in one cataclysmic event that brought Eldar society to the brink of extinction. This horrific event, though, would have a positive outcome for mankind. It consumed all of that stored turbulent warp energy, so after thousands of years of instability, the warp returned to relative calm. Interstellar communication and travel would once again be possible for the civilization of mankind.
See, Slaanesh did great. She helped you. Oh, books you can't get anymore? Why?
So the Age of Strife was coming to an end. But before we move forward, we need to move back some 2,000 years to M28 to M30. Humanity had now come close to the brink of destruction itself. So many worlds had fallen into disarray, starvation, chaos, anarchy. Now was the time. This would be the time where the mysterious and powerful Psyker who had wandered amongst humanity for thousands of years would come to the fore to lead humanity from an edge of unsalvageable darkness back into the light and resume their place as a meaningful power in the galaxy. Earth had by now been reduced to a chemically irradiated barren wasteland, its population slaughtered, and all that remained were degenerate feral nomads fighting for irrelevant territories. Insane wandering prophets and cyber-augmented techno-barbarians who lived for nothing other than to fight, created in the cradle of world-ending war. Frail empires would rise and disintegrate as quickly and forgettably as they had risen. No tribe or faction had enough power or resources to make any meaningful stand, and so it went on, pathetic fighting over the remnants of a ravaged world.
No worries. Thank you so much for coming in. I will see you soon, Dan. I appreciate you. You followed me on Twitter? Nice. I mostly just chat shit. I'm not that interesting on Twitter, to be honest. Yeah. But I appreciate it. And that I am very grateful for it.
Out of this seemingly endless horror came a single man, a warlord like no other. His title in these early days is unknown, but we would know who he would rise to become: the Emperor of Man.
Of course it is.
He would first conquer and then rebuild humanity, leading it into the light, saving it from itself to form his autocracy, known as the Imperium of Mankind. Unlike so many before him though, he had power not only as an unstoppable warrior, but in many other traits such as rational thinking, tactics, philosophy, economics, compassion, foresight, and perhaps most importantly, a genius of science, everything and more that would be required for a supreme leader. The Emperor, though, fought not for selfish personal gain or bloodlust of war like all the other scattered remnants of humanity left on Earth. He had selfless, higher goals to restore humanity spiritually, intellectually and physically, to revert us to a time of strength and prosperity.
You can tell he's an Imperial stan. Just from this little interaction, you can tell he's an Imperial stan. Biased. We need some lore videos by people who know that chaos is best.
These were the years of the Unification Wars. The Emperor had long held a facility deep in a range of mountains previously known as the Himalayas. This was his most significant stronghold and would later become the Imperial Palace. Here he experimented with genetics as well as developing and constructing weapons and armour for his warriors. In the earliest days, he would physically and genetically augment some of the most powerful barbarians. These humanoids would become known as the Thunder Warriors. The very first of their kind and the most basic template for what would eventually become the Imperial Space Marines, the Astartes, the greatest warriors in the galaxy. Under unsurmountable pressure from the Emperor's army of Thunder Warriors, the barbaric factions fell quickly and humanity was united on old Earth for the first time in centuries. This, however, would come at a terrible cost for the Thunder Warriors themselves.
Is that a recommendation, Angelo? Because I'm down.
And is one of the least known, yet darkest events for mankind. In order to unify Earth and bring humanity back on the path of advancement and strength, the Emperor had found it necessary to in part cleanse the savagery that had grown on the war-torn planet. This sadly meant the death of many arguable innocents during the Unification Wars, as well as the eradication of the last remaining religious church on Earth, known as the Church of the Lightning Stone. The Emperor is known to have personally spoken to the last remaining priest before bringing in his new age of enforced secular rationalism and the ideology known as the Imperial Truth. This essentially tells that humanity are now those destined to be the rulers of the galaxy. The Eldar had their chance and failed, and now humanity are the best set to take their place as the dominant force.
Right. Hear me out. I know you guys don't want to die. But don't you think humans are trash? Like, at this point in the universe, is there not a better species?
This ideology would soon be brought to all the scattered worlds of humanity in the long crusade that was yet to come. Now, the official version of things tells how the last battle of the Unification Wars takes place on Mount Ararat. This siege to cleanse the last of the techno-barbarians from the ruined wastes on Earth and finally bring it back to a time of peace and growth was said to be so brutal that waves of Thunder Warriors fell against the rocks in resistance, were slain to a single man, the legendary warrior Arik Taranis, the Lightning Bearer. He would raise the banner of lightning to mark the end of the Unification Wars, setting in place the rule of the Emperor of Man, before he too would fall to fatal wounds suffered in this battle of legend.
Chaos don't get me.
As with many things, the official version is not the end of the story. The actuality of the event was darker and far more sinister.
I need to learn about Tau. Someone remind me.
The Emperor knew that in order to restore peace, growth and a sense of civilization to his new and expanding empire, he would require a more stable and balanced force than the Thunder Warriors, who were essentially just adept brutes recruited from the wasteland, albeit clad in the earliest Imperial armour. In a necessary betrayal, the Emperor realised that in order to safeguard what he had achieved, his army of barbaric fighters could not exist past this time. It is believed that he actually ordered the many Thunder Warriors who had survived the final battle to be slaughtered by his elite guard, and possibly even some of the early proto-Astartes, who were at this time far advanced beyond most of his standard force.
Question. So I've heard rumours that the Emperor is Turkish. Is this correct? Because I may hate him a little bit less if he is Turkish.
This terrible secret has been concealed from the people of the Imperium for more than 10,000 years. And were it ever to be revealed, the consequences could be unimaginably disastrous. The Emperor, though, saw this necessary evil had to come to pass for the greater good. a sacrifice of the few to save the many who would come. The Thunder Warriors were built for war, and war alone, and would not be able to adapt to a time of peace, and could even have turned a vital tool into a dangerous, unstable threat that could unbalance all that he had achieved. In order for the next stage of his plans, he also required that humanity rally behind him as the sole and most powerful force. The slaughter of the Thunder Warriors was not the last act of betrayal though by the Emperor. He would then take the necessary glory that he had near single-handedly reunified Terra. This distortion of the truth, while hugely distasteful, does appear largely necessary to reunite the whole of humanity and create the most powerful civilization in the galaxy. Nonetheless, should the truth ever arise, it would at best split apart the Imperium and at worst destroy it. These choices
Let's get the truth out there. Truth, let's go!
by the Emperor are important to remember in the context of his character, as it can lead to certain logical speculations regarding future events.
Well, I heard that he could be Turkish. I thought that was interesting. Also, the Tau sound better than humans. I don't know. He's major biased against him. I won't. Someone give me a good video on the Tau. Right. Listen. As a Turkish speaker, my homies, my abis, my janims, like, I love the Turkish. So I'm very much hoping he isn't. Because I don't want to betray my friends. But, like, you know? Film Yoda. Right, let's go.
Some Thunder Warriors though would find fate on their side and escape this mass killing and live on as homeless unknowns, seeking out a miserable existence at the bottom of society. Honours forgotten, their deeds meaningless, all the while fearing constant discovery from the Imperium and certain death. This heartless betrayal was surely one of the darkest periods in Imperial history. They were never hunted though in any significant way. The Emperor believed them all dead, and besides, there were far more important tasks at hand, as the Emperor now gathered a team of gene wrights salvaged from the few remaining humans on Earth. These were men with practical knowledge of genetics to aid in his development of the new Astartes project. Those Thunder Warriors who did escape were not like the Astartes of the 41st millennium. They were genetically unstable, and most significantly, they only had a minimally extended mortality beyond that of a regular human, unlike the Space Marines who can live on for thousands of years. The Emperor had been working for decades on his Astartes project, deep within his mountain facility. Here he would create the vital foundations that would springboard humanity into a new age. His experiments would create the 20 Space Marine legions known as the Legiones Astartes, as well as 20 Primarks to lead each legion. These
18 Primarks, he got rid of 2 of them.
20 supreme leaders of the soon-to-come Space Marine legions were crafted by the Emperor using samples of his own arcane genetic code as the base. It is obviously unknown the depth of which the Emperor used his own DNA to create the Primarks, but later findings through ancient Imperial records do hint that he spliced multiple DNA types together, even going so far as to introduce some animal DNA into the Primarks. And this would explain why some, such as Lehman Russ, would display the wolf-like qualities, and why these would then become present throughout the Space Wolves Legion and chapter.
That's the furry faction, I stick by that. And I actually prefer books to audiobooks, personally. I like to read myself. But, yeah. I would like a video that's not biased against the Tau, because I do actually want to learn about them. These sound better than humans.
It's difficult to speculate on the Emperor's true goals here, and even if he was successful in the mixing of DNA in this way, it seems highly experimental, and perhaps he himself was not sure of the final result. This period of intelligent design was hasty and somewhat improvised given the dire situation facing mankind. It needed to repopulate its military power in order to springboard and take stage fights forward to reconquer the colonies. Another point of speculation is how closely the Primarks were imbued with spiritual elements and others such as unnaturally skillful charisma and so on. Still though, in creating the Primarks and even taking small elements of the Emperor's DNA, it imbued them with these demi-godlike characteristics. It also explains why at this time the barely known forces of chaos would seek out and scatter the developing Primarks before the Emperor's plans could grow into fruition. Little is known of this Primarch scattering event, but it has been suggested that the dawning forces of chaos felt this expanding power from humanity to threaten them, and in an effort to slow or negate it, they reached out into the mortal world to seize and scatter the fetal Primarchs across the galaxy. Each world they found themselves on would surely in time come to realise that they were far from normal, often finding themselves as a natural leader in command of the systems that would become their home. Later the Emperor would one by one discover and reunite the Primarchs with their legions, establishing one of the most powerful military forces the galaxy had ever seen.
You can recommend it whenever. You know I always read the comments. I try and respond to all of them. I can't always, obviously, but I always read every single comment, so be aware of that. So if you recommend them, I'll see it. I like Amber King too. There's also a channel called Vox in the Void. They take fan fiction, turn it into audio dramas. That's actually really cool.
The Thunder Warriors, though, were undoubtedly the early prototypes for the Astartes project, which subsequently makes their untimely end all the more tragic, as their sacrifice was so great, yet the memory of them was totally obliterated. The Astartes project would continue in a pragmatic manner. Each of the early legions at this time contained barely a few hundred marines. Their equipment was lightweight and somewhat improvised by comparison to later standards. They trained their minds and bodies to be the will, might and rule of the Emperor. Time would pass and their numbers grew. Each legion was divided not only for organisational reasons but also for practical reasons. Because of their adapted genetics that were drawn from the Primarchs, some carried traits and psychological behaviours which would not have been found comfortable comparison with their sibling legions. This segregation also allowed them to focus their bond to their brothers in their own legion, creating a near unbreakable kinship between Astartes. If the newly created Astartes would be the Emperor's scalpel, his gleaming pinnacle of human achievement, then the Thunder Warriors were certainly a mace used to bludgeon the remnants of humanity back into submission. The Thunder Warriors were genetically stronger though, tougher, and could even be stronger in battle than the newly created Astartes, which is something people often forget. They were a rough, brutal instrument, but ultimately a temporary solution to a violent problem. The Space Marines would serve not only as a weapon, but as beacons to mankind, a glimmer of what humanity could hope to be. The dark times to come, however, would show that this was a misplaced belief, that while the Space Marines were created to represent the pinnacle of human development, they ultimately proved as susceptible to the basic flaws of mankind as any other mortal. The Emperor's campaign on Earth would now come to a close. He began establishing the fundamental elements of a civilized, modernized society in government administration, economy and infrastructure. An important figure in this process was a man known as Malcador, the Sigillite. He had a vast knowledge of such matters and carried himself with the bearing of a priest. He was appointed to run the courts and palaces of the new empire, the right-hand man of the Emperor. Earth would turn from a place of desolation and horror to one of active production, rebuilding and planning.
Really? That dude? The dude with the green? Really? Each to their own. More for you. Malcador, our boy. Oh look, it's Dusty. Taking the pie local, making some bomb-ass enchiladas. What'd you put in your enchilada? Right. Here's the thing you guys don't know about me yet, because we haven't done enough lives together yet. It's a thing on my Twitch. I've been doing this for like a year now. If you are eating, you legally have to tell me what you're eating and what's in it. Because I like to get jealous of other people's food.
Some might call it coincidentally convenient, but at this time a vast shockwave would travel through the galaxy, the birth of Slaanesh. Humanity would have no idea of the significance of this, only that it cleared the storms from the warp that had isolated and ruined humanity's gloriously technologically advanced empire.
Thunder Warriors, super strong but mentally unstable and not a good fit for civilized empire. Space Marines, weaker than them, but more mentally stable.
Again though, we could speculate that the Emperor had foreseen these events and the necessity of preparing Earth for this time. On Mars, the humans of the cult Mechanicus, that is those who worship machines, would become aware of this unification on Earth, as information through distant communication and physical observations.
Do you mean peanut butter? Because I fucking love peanut butter. Also, what's in the quiche? Is it just regular quiche, or have you got some like ham and cheese in there or something?
They viewed this new emperor as a man in alignment with their own agenda. Mars, during the Dark Age of technology, had been a planet with a single purpose, a powerhouse of production for this age, consolidating ships and weapons, including the vast Titans, hundreds of feet tall, gigantic bipedal war machines whose very presence could end conflicts before they began. Since the end of this age, cults had risen across Mars, and the most prevalent of these was the Mechanicus, whose ideology included the veneration and acquisition of these ancient but highly advanced technologies from the period known as the Dark Age of technology. During the period of isolation known as the Age of Strife, Mars had undergone a similar societal collapse comparable to that of Earth. With all trade cut off, they had insufficient water and food to supply the populace. A civil war would follow.
It's Slanesh! Sorry, I said for Slanesh, but I hadn't expected that to be said. I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna get something real good and I'm gonna be like, this shit's Slanesh. Also, I fucking love peanut bike. Fallen gamers, you're a G. I thought you'd said a nutty buddy. I was like, peanut butter buddy? Yeah. Mate, we're friends that, like, honestly, if something's dead good, I always be like, this shit's Slanesh. Because I'm gonna do it. Malcador is a human psyker and one of the most powerful psykers. Nice. Lorga backhanded him and he just got back up. He even choked out Horus while pinning 2 other Primarks in place with his mind. Fuck.
As well as the collapse of some planetary infrastructures that shielded their little remaining hydroponics and food production systems. This would lead to a further collapse of the already fragile supporting systems. The Techs, an established Mechanicum, decided the best way to survive this apocalypse would be to retreat into underground bunkers which had been mined out, creating vast cities below the surface. Little is known at this time, but evidently prior to their seclusion, the Mechanicum Techs were a cult who would bear a respect and drive to recover, protect and utilise the lost technologies of mankind. Upon their rise from the subterranean depths, they had in this time translated this over into a complete faith. The tech priests of the Mechanicum, along with their troops, would very quickly subdue the insane irradiated savages who remained on the surface and begin the process of rebuilding and redeveloping Mars to be completely self-sufficient.
Surprised that the Emperor has friends considering he's a huge dick.
This, in combination with their access to some of the most powerful war machines ever forged in the galaxy, would without doubt leave the Mechanicus in a position of some power. To the cult of Mechanicus, who are now becoming aware of this emperor figure who had surfaced on Terra, a man of science and technology, this was obviously appealing to the Mechanicus.
6 PM UCT tomorrow, if you do want to see part 2. I promise I'll watch them first.
And some tech priests on Mars even began to suggest that the Emperor was a man of such power as to rival their own machine god and fulfill an ancient prophecy in their faith of techno-mysticism. Debates raged on Mars between the priesthood regarding how to treat this new development. All the while, the Emperor, bearing his power of immense foresight, would not be ignorant of the Mechanicum, and he slowly and steadily would begin to craft his new plans accordingly.
That's super cool.
Plans for a crusade on a galactic scale never before seen. Its purpose? To locate the lost Primarks, to reunite the territories of humanity, forge a new Imperial Empire, and thrust the Imperium of Man into a position of complete dominance and power throughout the galaxy.
He just wants power.
The Emperor's plan was one of absolute submission. Anyone who stood against the Imperial truth would be cleansed and destroyed. The Mechanicum of Mars were one of the few exceptions.
I'm spending my Monday night after work, like straight after work here, watching Warhammer. I think I'm far gone. Sean, you get it? This shit's Slanesh. We into it.
The Emperor knew that any battle to try and claim dominance over the cult Mechanicum would be hugely counterproductive. Even if he could claim victory over them, the cost to his new Astartes force would be severe and unjustified. So he planned instead to offer a rare alliance with the Council of Tech Priests. In offering them assistance in their own goals and acquisitions of new and lost tech throughout the galaxy, they would provide support, construction of war gear and tech to Imperial forces. They also were one of the exceptional entities to be allowed to maintain a state of semi-independence within the Imperium, a fairly unique position. The Emperor would also provide a new group of navigators to enable the Mechanicum to travel through the warp again in search of fabled STC units. All of this suited the Mechanicum and Imperium in a symbiotic relationship, and an alliance was created.
Humanity needs to die off at this point in 40k. We're just not strong enough to survive. I'm sorry, but it's true. We should be dead
And
already.
so we reach the beginning of Millennium 31. With Mars now allied to the Emperor's Imperium, the Legiones Astartes war machine had significantly expanded. The Mechanicum would provide the battle barges needed to transport the Space Marines throughout the galaxy. They also brought to the table the Titans, some of the most powerful war machines ever created. Their very presence on approaching a humanoid system would often be enough to prevent a conflict. The shock and awe of facing such incomprehensible opponents would quickly lead a populace to understand they had no hope of preventing the Imperial Expeditionary Forces from achieving their goals.
Fallen Gamer, you a snacky boy tonight? Me too. I'm going to be snacking after this.
The Crusade would initially be led by the Emperor himself as he commanded a massive fleet of Astartes.
Kagesh, I like
As the
your
Crusade gathered pace and the Primarks were recovered, these expeditionary fleets would number in the thousands. Before we talk about the Crusade itself though, which I have tried to condense as much as possible, I want to first talk briefly on the Astartes or Space Marines. Now, a regular misconception about Space Marines is that because they wear near identical armour and were originally produced via a variation of cloning, or at least grown in a lab, that they somehow have no personality or little differentiation between them. It is also often assumed that Space Marines will blindly follow any commands given to the letter, no matter the consequences. After all, they are the superior, unquestioning warriors in the universe, right? Both
I do actually like the Dark Templar.
of these myths is fundamentally wrong. Each Space Marine is an individual person with their own character, traits, to an extent personal principles. There are many documented events in which these human elements would have a role to play in subsequent events. Space Marines, although superhuman, are still human, and as such the Emperor deemed it necessary to have a senior position with whom Astartes could use as a point of reference to discuss matters of morality, to understand their purpose, their mission, and sometimes to give guidance beyond purely military matters during the Crusade and the expeditionary forces. Enter the Iterators. Imperial Iterators were the most persuasive of public speakers. They are masters of manipulating a crowd's opinion, and Iterators would counsel also Marines as they voyaged through the galaxy. But their role went beyond this and was critical at the inception of the Great Crusade. They were placed among the expeditionary forces to aid in reuniting humanity and turning lost human civilizations to the Imperial cause. The Emperor appointed them to spread the Imperial truth. Truths such as the rejection of religious faith to enforce secular rule, and unnecessary wasteful squabbling over power and resources. These were all seen as significantly counterproductive and opposite to the objectives of the Imperium. The first Primarch to be reunited with the Imperial fleet was Horus of the Lunar Wolves. He greatly admired the Iterators' work, so much so that he asked them to also tutor his captains and legionnaires. Horus believed that once the Crusade was completed, there would be an end to the war, and that the Astartes would first need to find a peacetime vocation. The most famous iterator during the Great Crusade was primary iterator Kyril Sindaman, who served aboard Horus's flagship. Iterators are seen as the precursors to Imperial Guard commissars and Astartes chaplains. The iterators and then later the chaplains are an example of the more human services required by Space Marines. Documented records have shown that they have been regularly known to question ethics, purpose, and even their own morality, despite an Astartes essentially being immortal. They are destined to die in battle, as that is their true purpose. And despite this predefined fate, they are far from the emotionless drones that some would assume. They are a living embodiment of humanity, a distillation of spirit and mind.
In fact, the Primars hated that the humans were in charge of the Imperium, while under the Emperor and some Perpetuals. You know what? I hate it too. We should just kill the humans, right? Tell me you don't agree. Let's be honest.
The Emperor's Great Crusade to reunify humanity had begun in earnest. This was an operation on a truly epic scale. Millions of troops, tens of thousands of ships forged by the Mars Mechanicum. This would be humanity's defining moment, to reach out and forge the greatest empire in the galaxy. The Imperial forces comprised soldiers, naval officers, and most importantly, the Astartes legions. They were configured and divided into expeditionary fleets supported by all manner of cruisers, transports, scout teams, dropships, and so on. Commanded by the Emperor and his war council, but also by individuals placed in charge of these expeditionary forces. It's important to remember that these forces were as much exploratory as they were tasked with an important mission. A great deal of time had passed during the Age of Strife, as well as incalculable quantities of data had been lost in the process. The Imperial forces simply didn't know exactly where all the colonies were, nor their status. Had they been destroyed in civil war, alien genocide, or perhaps the opposite and expanded to a degree where they would not need aid, but instead submission? All of these were unknowns. Many locations could be estimated as to whether or not they had been colonized in the past. The Mechanicum could provide some information from past scripture as to where human colonies had been located, although more importantly, they wanted to know where we could find ancient and undiscovered technology. The expeditionary fleet would even initiate a search on the basis of myths and rumour. No stone was to be left unturned in the search for the lost civilizations of mankind. Before they embarked on their journey though, one other important task was required. Although the warp storms had subsided, allowing travel once again across great distances, the navigator class from the past that would guide ships through the warp. This system though was far from perfect, and the Emperor had a greater plan. On Earth, the Emperor ordered construction of the Great Astronomicon. Tech priests from Mars were drafted in to aid in
Astronomicon! Dorian chats shit about it all the time!
This project, and its purpose would be to enable the Emperor to guide, oversee, and command his vast fleet all from Terra. It created a system for him to focus, amplify, and broadcast psychic signals and energy. It would stand as an unchanging marker, a lighthouse for the navigators, a point of reference around which they could plan all their travels. This certainly was an important factor in the success of the Crusade, as it enabled the navigators to travel through the warp in great leaps and faster than they ever had done before. In addition to this, the Emperor would also create the Astropaths. These were powerful psychers whose sole task would be in relaying communications from the fleet and later the established Imperium back to the ruling council on Terra. The vast distances involved meant that the Astropaths would become the only communication link between Terra and the distant colonies.
I'll make you a deal. Hey Francesco! To be honest, if anyone deserves recognition and love, it's the poor Lamenters. Yeah, okay, we love Lamenters, that's fine. But, hear me out. How about we kill all of humanity, but we keep the salamanders? Now do I have your agreement? Tempting, huh? Hey, Greg! I'm the hammer. I'm the sword in his hand. I'm the gauntlet about his fist. I am the bane of his foes and the woes of the treacherous. I am the end. Great entrance.
However, as with the Eldar, the risk of possession to the astropaths by warp demons consuming the psykers and thereby enabling them to travel into the material world was one that the Emperor was all too aware of, especially after his Primarks had been scattered throughout the galaxy. To this end, the astropaths would undergo an extreme and harsh process of toughening against the threat of warp entities.
Francesco, they'd get over it. Like, listen, give them enough decades, give them enough millennia, they'd be over it.
The Emperor himself would manipulate and reform their mind into a protective vessel, making them nearly immune to risks from
just take
the
them all
warp.
back and just be like...
This process, though, was agonizing and extremely dangerous. Many psykers were killed in the process or went completely insane. Even if they survived the process, a universal effect would see their optic nerves become damaged beyond repair. This meant all astropaths are blind. From the Imperial perspective, though, this was a necessary consequence as they continued to be an integral part of Imperial infrastructure. The Crusades had begun, and alongside Space Marines were hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of Imperial troops, humans who were salvaged from the aftermath of terror and structured into an effective, albeit expendable fighting force. This Imperial Guard was strengthened and resupplied as they reconnected and conquered lost human colonies.
Fun fact, I once killed a spider with this. Like, shot it on the ceiling and everyone thought I was an arsehole. But I did it.
A secondary benefit was that in drafting local military forces into the expeditionary force, it removed these planets' ability to rebel effectively against the newly created Imperial outposts on each planet. Also, in these early days, taxes and tribute to the Imperium were not strictly required, but Imperial commanders stationed on new colonies of the Imperium would often require supplies for the continuing crusade. Many systems and colonies would need help rebuilding or periods after generations of schooling by iterators to bring them in line and around to the Imperial truth and loyalty to the Imperium. Some worlds, though, who were self-sufficient had survived intact and would even welcome the arriving Imperial forces with open arms as long-awaited brothers, with glorious celebrations and immediate support, much to the satisfaction and pride of the expeditionary forces who were all too happy to welcome their brothers back to the Imperium.
But you won't be dead by the time I kill all humanity, you know what I mean? Sorry, I'm getting tired. I start work very early in the morning. But also, it took 2 shots for Rosado, but, like, it did die. But 2 shots on the spider killed it.
Such events were a blessing to behold, though, as many worlds were either barren wastes long since destroyed, with only ruined remains to prove that anyone had ever existed there. Or they were found to be locked in brutally tyrannical dictatorships and required sometimes days, often weeks of orbital and ground assault to subdue and conquer these false dictators. Religious doctrine and faith were especially highlighted to be crushed on all worlds. The Emperor would never allow these practices to infringe or threaten the Imperium, as he was partly responsible and had even seen the effects these caused on humanity millennia ago in the first age of mankind. The Emperor also made an important choice that upon arrival to new worlds, any psykers discovered were told to expect transport back to Terra, courtesy of secretive black ships. Here, they would be tested on their journey back to Earth to their limit. They would endure nightmarish examination, some dying from the trials or executed for being just too unstable. Others, though, ended up completely losing their minds in the process of these harsh examinations. The fate of these individuals was at the time unknown. It later transpired that if they were proven strong and capable enough in manipulating their psychic power, they would become stock for creating new astropaths by the Emperor. Any younger but highly powerful psykers were subsequently distributed to some of the Space Marine legions who had begun a Librarius program, creating special Astartes who were capable of wielding immense psychic power. Others, though, disappeared from record entirely, leading to supposition of secret organisations who even today are not fully disclosed. The Crusade continued for centuries, stretching out across the galaxy. Finally, the Primarks were reunited with their legions and were duly given positions on the Crusade and Imperial War Council.
I've learnt briefly about the Grey Knights. I do not know in detail about the Grey Knights. I would be open to learning more about the Grey Knights, but I do know of them and I do have a basic understanding of them.
The Primarch figures, though, were not suited to this level of administration. They were at their best out among their Marines leading campaigns. So it fell to the administrators of Man to run the day-to-day Crusade infrastructure. One important figure arises again, that of Malcador the Sigillite. He would become a keystone in the execution of the Crusade and one of the most loyal and valuable members of the Imperial Council. The power of the Imperium had now reached its peak. There seemed to be little, if anything, that could threaten, damage or destabilise the glory and power of the now reunited Imperium of Man. The Crusade had in fact been so successful that after a chain of impressive victories, the Emperor decided he could fully return to Terra to continue managing his plans there and working on new secret projects. His Primarchs were surely more than capable of finishing the now simple task of scouting and securing any fringe colonies and bringing the Crusade to a successful conclusion. After a specifically great victory on Ulanor, the Emperor selected the first Primarch and commander of the Lunar Wolves, known as Horus Lupercal, and bestowed upon him the title of War Master. This title established him as a leader of the Imperial military forces in lieu of the Emperor, and all other Primarchs and Imperial forces would follow the War Master's commands as if they were the Emperor's. Not all the other Primarchs seemed to be entirely comfortable, not only with this decision, but also with the Emperor's choice to leave them and return to Terra. Considering their strength of character, this seems somewhat surprising, but if anything it shows that their bond they shared with the Emperor was perhaps not rock solid, and some of them felt bewildered he should choose to leave them on the fringes of the galaxy when overall victory seems so near and so secure.
You know what though? It's good to have death by your side. You'd rather have him walking next to you than walking behind you.
Horus, whilst being a supreme master of military matters, was also less well known for being exceptionally tactful and charismatic. He would take time to speak to each of his brother Primarchs in turn. Understanding them as he did, he would employ his various skills of perception and charisma to appeal to their individual natures and reassure them that although the Emperor had granted him this glorious honour, it was the Brotherhood together who would achieve the ultimate victory. This helped quell some of the disquiet, but it was not only the Primarchs who felt bemused that the Emperor had abandoned them, and in time this, in combination with other unfortunate events, would lead to the darkest of catastrophes. In fact, there have been many examples throughout human history where withholding information would lead to disaster, and this period for humanity would be no exception. The Emperor's decision to not make his Space Marines aware of the dark forces of chaos for their own benefit. In fact, even to this day, the vast majority of the Imperial citizenship lives blissfully unaware of the darkness that lies in the Immaterium. The Emperor's precise reasons for this are not crystal clear. Perhaps he felt that humans were too easily persuaded or tempted by the promises of quick, easy power. But whatever the reason, the consequences for the Primarchs and Space Marines to not be able to see this danger, as well as the Imperium, would be disastrous. The Astartes legions had encountered vague clues and shrouded warnings on some lost human worlds they encountered, whispers in the wind, apparent possession of Marines. Horus and his Lunar Wolves discovered direct evidence of some dark force when they encountered a lost but highly advanced human colony known as the Interrex in the later stages of the Expeditionary Crusade. As the fleet travelled to the Interrex homeworld, they engaged in extended peaceful negotiations. Again, this was an example of the Space Marines, and notably Horus, not giving preference to immediate combat, but in choosing a peaceful option. If this was viable to them, it was always preferable. Their mission of Imperial truth was without question. It was the only resolution that would ever be acceptable to the fleet, though.
Fuck Erebus.
Now, during this encounter, Garviel Loken, who was the Lunar Wolves' 10th captain and a member of the Mournival,
Oh, sorry, am I not supposed to swear? Sorry. Hi Brandon, welcome in. We're almost at the end of this video, but we are doing part 2 tomorrow, so be aware of that.
Mournival was a close and under Imperial rule illegal clique of brothers, but one which Horus had allowed to exist so as to help advise him on matters of importance. Loken was among the War Master's party when they attended a reception with these...
Yeah, Dragon, screw that guy! Swear all you want, essentially. It's okay. Big E should have done 2 things: killed Angron, flood the world bearers in investigators, make Erebus have an unfortunate accident, bring Magnus into confidence. I'm gonna say, if Horus never got corrupted, he would have been the GOAT easy. But that's the whole point. That's the whole point of why it was corrupted, because you have to take out the GOAT, you know what I mean? So if you don't take out that person, you're gonna get ruined. You're gonna get absolutely ruined. But also, put your hands up if you're a furry factionist, because I see you, Space Wolves.
These Interrex during negotiations, he was drawn into a casual conversation with one of the Interrex guard, who admitted that the Interrex had learned to tread carefully with any newcomers to their people because they feared the taint of chaos with a K on these newcomers. It becomes apparent that the Interrex colony had made dealings with the Xenos race, the Eldar, during the Age of Strife, and the Interrex explain how it is their understanding from what they could discern from the Eldar that chaos is a threat like no other, that it would not appear brutal or blunt at first, but subtly. They feared chaos deceptively approaching their space, posing as a friend, seeking to bleed its way into their confidences, and then destroy them mercilessly from the inside out.
That's kind of
Luetin
metal.
was shaken at these unknown revelations, and the Warmaster Horus would later assure him that there is no fundamental evil in the galaxy, and that is the end of the matter. But the seeds of suspicion are planted. Luetin cannot shake this feeling that something, somewhere, is wrong. But before he'd have any opportunity to follow up and explore these doubts, a break-in occurs in one of the Interrex's most sacred museums, and a highly advanced blade known as an anatheme is stolen.
Oh no.
At this time, despite Horus's pleas for restraint, negotiations would now collapse, and the Lunar Wolves and the advanced Interrex would fall into all-out conflict. The Space Marines of Horus are ultimately victorious over the Interrex, but it's a victory Horus takes no pleasure in, as it's born out of misunderstanding and was a tragic, unnecessary conflict. These events, though, would become just a singular fragment in a deteriorating pattern of troubles that would haunt and gesticulate within Horus, as well as his unease then irradiating out into his brother Primarks, the Mournival, his and other legions. Unbeknownst to Horus, a sequence of events had been now initiated, and their cascade could not be prevented.
I'm so sorry. No. Who stole it? Me? Slanesh. I'm so sorry, Stan Fatherly Disappointment. I hope it catches up.
So why are these events so important? Well, for one, it gives more insight into the fact that at the time, it seems barely any Space Marines at any level of rank had any knowledge of chaos.
No worries, enjoy fencing. Thank you so much for coming in. I appreciate you. I save a lot, and don't think I don't notice you. I notice everyone who's here quite a bit.
And if they did, it was only the vaguest of suspicions, the kind that could easily be brushed off by speaking to, say, some iterators. They had no idea about the true nature or capabilities of the malevolent force known as Chaos. By comparison, the Emperor understood all too well the dark forces that had very recently annihilated the Eldar and consumed so many human colonies throughout the Age of Strife. It seems strange that he would choose not to gift his Astartes, and more importantly his Primarks, with this information so that they could best protect against its darkness. But perhaps he feared that knowledge of the warp entities would do more harm than good, instead choosing ignorance as the best policy. However, a combination of time, doubt, rejection, jealousy, and greed brewing in corners of the Astartes legions would prove this to be an unwise decision.
Unwise? Yeah. Yo, we did it! We finished the video! Part 2 is tomorrow. Okay, everyone, before we go, I want to say a few things. A, leave your recommendations in the comments. I read every single comment. I swear to you. I want book recommendations. I want React recommendations. I would also like to say 96% of you who watch my video are not subscribed. You like my lives and my videos. So please, if you are enjoying the content, it would mean the absolute world to me if you did subscribe. It's free. And you can always unfollow if you hate me later. Like, I get it. But, like, I'll always have Slanesh. But yes, that is it for today. Dawn of War 3 trailer, not today. I've got so much stuff to do this week. This is our week-long celebration for hitting 4K watch hours, because I never thought I'd do that. So thank you for being in part 1 of the Emperor of Man. And I hope you all are as excited as I am for tomorrow. Erebus is the reason why Horus became corrupted by the Chaos Gods and has done a lot of things fans of 40k hate him for. I'm down to hate him with you. Let's get her paid already. Like, it's not about the money. It's more, so if there's any issues with stream, you can actually get YouTube support. That's the biggest thing. Because, like, YouTube support isn't available until you reach a, like, partner. So, like, if there's any problems with stream or my community page goes down, I literally have to, like, try and fix it myself. I pray that it works. So, you know. But, anyway, thank you so much for coming in. Thank you to everyone. I notice all of you that come often, and I see the ones who were here yesterday, and I appreciate you so much. And Slanesh will protect you. I am proud of you for getting through today. I am even more proud of you for getting through tomorrow. Arrivederci, arrivederci, Gurashudis, Alawigo. Peace. I will see you tomorrow for part 2. Bye!